Let me tell you something. Everybody wants to be a leader, but not everybody's willing to carry the weight that comes with it. Leadership ain't about being in front just to be seen. It's about standing in the fire when no one else will. It's about choosing discipline when the world is offering you distraction. It's about showing up every single day, not because it's easy, but because it matters. You see, true leadership starts when the spotlight fades. When the applause dies down, when the room is empty and it's just you, your purpose, and the decision to keep going. Anybody can give orders, anybody can talk loud, but a real leader inspires change without saying a word, just by how they live. If you want to lead, you better know why you're walking, because people don't follow noise, they follow conviction, they follow consistency, they follow someone who walks with vision, with integrity, with fire in their soul and love in their heart. So don't just aim to lead, aim to mean something while you do it. You can't lead if you don't know why you're leading, that's the truth. Leadership that lacks purpose is just noise, loud, maybe even impressive for a moment, but it fades. It doesn't last, it doesn't move people because people don't follow titles. They follow meaning, they follow vision. They follow someone who has clarity in their soul and a mission in their mind. Purpose is the foundation. It's the engine that keeps your leadership alive even when motivation runs dry. Purpose is what gets you up in the morning when everything in you wants to sleep in. It's what makes you stay when it would be easier to walk away. It's what turns ordinary action into extraordinary impact. You can have all the skills, the education, the charisma, but if you don't have a purpose behind your leadership, you will lead people nowhere. See, purpose doesn't come from the outside. It's not given to you by a boss, a crowd, or a paycheck. Purpose is born within. It's a decision to live for something bigger than yourself. And when you lead from that place, when your actions align with your calling, you become powerful. Not because you shout louder, but because your words start to mean something. There's a fire that purpose lights in you. It's not the kind of fire that burns out quickly. It's the steady flame that refuses to quit even in the dark. Purpose gives you direction when life throws distractions. It gives you peace when storms rise up. And more than anything, it gives your leadership weight. It makes people stop and listen because they can feel that you're not just speaking, you're living it. When you lead with purpose, people trust you more. Why? Because they know you're not in it for fame or ego or applause. They can see that your mission is rooted in service, not self. They see that you're fighting for something that matters. And in a world full of empty ambition, that kind of clarity cuts through like lightning. Passion flows from purpose, and that passion is contagious. You walk into a room and people feel it before you even say a word. That's leadership. It's not about being perfect, it's about being committed. It's about waking up every day and saying, this is why I'm here, this is who I am, this is what I was born to do. But understand this, purpose isn't just some grand idea. It's not something you find one day and everything suddenly makes sense. No, purpose is built. It's revealed in the doing, in the serving, in the quiet decisions you make when no one's watching. It's what you choose when things get hard. It's who you are when everything else is stripped away. You want to be a leader, start with why. Not a superficial why, not something that sounds good in a speech. Dig deeper. Ask yourself what you're willing to sacrifice for. What breaks your heart enough to make you stand up and do something about it? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Not just for you, but for the people who will come after you, because that's what real leadership is about. It's not about standing tall, it's about standing true. It's about leading not just with your voice, but with your values. And when you lead from that place of deep, unshakable purpose, you don't just lead people. You awaken them, you ignite something in them that reminds them they have a purpose too, and that is the art of leadership. It's not a performance, it's not a position, it's a calling, one that demands everything you've got. One that asks you to be bold, to be honest, and to be relentless in your pursuit of meaning. Because when you lead with purpose, you don't just change direction, you change destinies. Discipline is the quiet power that holds leadership together. It's not loud, it doesn't need applause, It's not about the spotlight or the moment. It's about consistency. It's about showing up when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when nobody's watching. Because real leaders don't move based on feeling. They move based on principle. They don't do what's easy. They do what's right. That's the difference between someone who wants to look like a leader and someone who actually is one. Desire is everywhere. The world is full of temptation. There will always be something pulling at you, an easier path, a quicker win, a shortcut that skips the struggle. But leadership isn't about shortcuts, it's about standards. It's about doing the work that needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Because leadership means responsibility, and responsibility demands discipline. Discipline is the ability to hold the line, to stay focused when distractions come, to keep your word when the feeling to fulfill it is long gone. It's about sacrificing comfort in the moment for the sake of the mission. Anybody can lead when it's convenient, but leadership gets real in those quiet moments, those 5 a.m. mornings, those late nights, those decisions to say no to the party, no to the laziness, no to the voice that says, "You've done enough." Discipline answers back, "Not yet." See, desire will whisper, "You've earned a break." Discipline will remind you, "You've got a calling." That calling demands more than good intentions. It demands habits. Discipline is what separates a dreamer from a doer. It's the bridge between your potential and your purpose. And the truth is, most people never cross it. Not because they're not talented, not because they're not smart, but because they haven't learned how to lead themselves first. That's where it starts, self-leadership. Before you can lead anybody else, you've got to learn how to lead you. That means waking up with intention. That means saying no to what looks good now, so you can say yes to what lasts later. It means choosing purpose over pleasure, choosing growth over comfort, choosing what you want most over what you want now. Because here's the thing, every leader you admire, every person who made a mark on this world, they weren't just driven by motivation. Motivation fades, discipline stays. They had a structure, a rhythm, a personal code they followed even when no one else was watching. And that's why they stood out. That's why they succeeded. That's why people followed them. Not because they were perfect, but because they were reliable. You could count on them. You could trust them to do what needed to be done, day in and day out. Discipline gives you that edge. It sharpens your character. It makes you dependable in a world full of inconsistency. When others fold under pressure, you rise, not because you're stronger by nature, but because you've trained for the pressure. You've conditioned yourself to keep moving, to keep building, to keep leading, even when everything in you wants to quit. Leadership will test you. There will be times when the easy way looks appealing, times when the crowd says, "Take a break," times when nobody would blame you for easing up. But discipline says, "Not today." Discipline says, "Keep going." Discipline says, "I'm not here to be liked, I'm here to make a difference." So if you want to lead, really lead, start by making discipline your foundation. Build habits that align with your purpose. Speak less about what you want to do, and show more by how you live. Respect your time, respect your word, respect your mission. That's how you earn trust. That's how you lead by example. That's how you stay consistent. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. At the end of the day, desire will come and go, but discipline will carry you across the finish line. It will keep you grounded. It will keep you focused, and it will remind you every single day that leaders are not built in moments of motivation. They're built in the discipline of doing the work, especially when no one is watching. Leadership isn't about standing above others. It's not about being the loudest in the room or having the biggest title. Leadership at its core is about service. It's about putting others first. It's about lifting people, not controlling them. A real leader doesn't walk into a room thinking, "How can I be the most important person here?" They walk in thinking, "How can I help others rise? How can I make sure no one is left behind?" That's the difference between being in charge and actually leading. When you lead from a place of service, everything shifts. Your decisions aren't based on ego, they're rooted in impact. Your actions aren't driven by what makes you look good, they're driven by what helps others grow. That's the kind of leadership that lasts. That's the kind that people remember, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you cared the most. The greatest leaders in history, the ones who made real change, didn't do it by forcing people to follow them. They did it by serving people with so much integrity, with so much compassion, that people were inspired to follow. They showed up not with pride, but with purpose. They didn't use people to build their platform. They used their platform to build people. Being a servant first means you listen more than you speak. It means you understand that every person you lead has a story, has struggles, has dreams. You don't treat them like tools to get you somewhere. You treat them like partners in a mission. You invest in them. You empower them. You challenge them to become their best. Not for your gain, but for theirs. And here's the truth. When you serve, you grow. Service teaches you humility. It keeps your feet on the ground. It reminds you that leadership isn't about being above people. It's about being with them, walking alongside them, fighting for them. Sometimes even taking the hits so they don't have to. You can spot a servant leader a mile away. They're the ones who give credit instead of taking it. They're the ones who celebrate other people's wins, who push others into the spotlight, who aren't threatened by the success of the people they lead. Because they understand true leaders make leaders, not followers. They're not building a fan base. They're building future leaders, people who will go out and carry the mission even further than they could. That takes courage, that takes security. You have to be confident enough in who you are to not need constant validation. Because when you lead with service, you won't always get applause. In fact, sometimes people won't notice what you're doing at all. They won't see the hours you spend behind the scenes. They won't know the sacrifices you make. But you keep serving anyway, because you're not doing it for applause. You're doing it for impact. And here's what's powerful. When you serve with all your heart, when you lead from the inside out, people feel that. They feel seen, they feel heard, they feel valued, and that feeling is what builds trust. That's what creates loyalty. That's what inspires people to go the extra mile, not because they're forced to, but because they want to, because they know you're walking with them, not just ahead of them. Leadership isn't a throne you sit on, it's a foundation you build under others, and yes, it's heavy, yes, it's hard, yes, there will be days where you question if it's worth it. But if you keep serving, if you keep pouring into people, you will see something greater than any title or reward. You'll see lives change. You'll see people rise who once doubted themselves. You'll see someone take what you gave and turn it into something even bigger, and that is the real reward. So if you want to lead, start by serving. Start by asking, who can I lift today? Start by making space for others to grow, even if it means stepping back yourself. That kind of leadership is rare, but it's powerful. And it's exactly what this world needs more of right now. Leaders who lead with heart, with humility, and with the courage to serve first, always. Fear is part of the journey. If you're waiting to lead until you're no longer afraid, you'll never take the first step. Fear doesn't go away. It evolves. It shifts shapes. Sometimes it's loud and obvious. Sometimes it hides in doubt, in hesitation, in that quiet voice whispering, "You're not ready." But true leadership isn't about being fearless. It's about being brave enough to move anyway. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear, it means choosing to act even when fear is in the room. Leadership will test you. There will be moments when everything is uncertain. When the path ahead is foggy, when the weight of responsibility feels too heavy to carry. That's when courage matters most, not in the easy times, not when everything is going according to plan, but when everything is on the line, your reputation, your vision, your peace, and you still choose to stand tall and lead. That's courage. That's strength. You see, a leader isn't defined by how they act when things are calm. A leader is revealed in the storm, When fear creeps in and chaos starts to rise, people don't look for perfection. They look for presence. They look for someone who won't run, someone who won't fold, someone who looks fear in the face and says, "I'm not backing down." Courage is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's a leader walking into a tough conversation they've been avoiding. Sometimes it's standing alone when no one else has the guts to speak the truth. Sometimes it's owning a mistake in front of your team, not because it's easy, but because it's right. That's the kind of courage that builds trust. That's the kind of courage that makes people follow you, not because they have to, but because they believe in you. And let's be clear, fear isn't your enemy. Fear sharpens you. Fear humbles you. Fear reminds you that the stakes are real. What separates a leader from the rest is not that they feel less fear, it's that they choose to respond with faith instead of paralysis. They feel the fear, but they don't let it write the story. They choose to write their own. That takes discipline, yes. That takes mental strength. But most of all, it takes a deep belief in the mission. When you believe in what you're fighting for, you find the courage to keep moving. You realize that leadership isn't about you. It's about the people depending on you. It's about the vision that's bigger than your comfort zone. And once you get that in your bones, you start to see fear differently. You stop letting it stop you. You start using it as fuel. There's a kind of power that only comes from walking through fear. You learn things in those moments that no book or seminar could ever teach you. You learn about your resilience. You learn what you're really made of. You discover strength you didn't know you had until you had no choice but to find it. Courage is contagious. When one person stands up, it gives others permission to do the same. When a leader refuses to bow to fear, it sends a signal: we are stronger than this moment. We are greater than this challenge. We are not giving up. That's how movements are born. That's how teams transform. Not with shallow hype, but with deep, unwavering courage. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until the fear disappears. Step up now. Speak the truth now. Make the move now. You don't need all the answers to be a courageous leader. You just need the guts to go forward when everything in you says turn back. That one step into the unknown, that one act of bravery, can change the entire direction of your life, your team, your vision. So no, you won't always feel strong. You won't always feel sure. But if you keep showing up, if you keep walking forward, fear will lose its grip. And in its place, you'll find something stronger: courage. The kind that doesn't shout but stands, the kind that doesn't pretend to be fearless but dares to lead anyway. That's the courage the world needs, and that's the courage already living inside of you. You just have to choose it. One step, one decision, one moment at a time. Leadership is not about commanding others. It's about showing them the way. People don't respond to instructions as much as they respond to example. They don't follow what you say. They follow what you do. That's the foundation of influence. That's where real leadership begins. Not in your speeches, but in your standards. Not in what you expect from others, but in what you demand from yourself. The power of example is one of the most underestimated forces in leadership. You can have vision, you can have goals, you can have a brilliant strategy, but if your actions don't reflect what you preach, no one's buying in. Because people are watching you, they're studying how you show up, they're paying attention when you don't think they are, how you handle pressure, how you treat people, how you make decisions when it's inconvenient. Your life is your loudest message. A great leader becomes a living standard. You walk the talk, not once, not twice, but every single day. That consistency builds trust. That integrity builds respect. When your team sees you staying late, staying humble, staying focused, they start to believe in the mission because they see it working through you. They know it's real. You want people to be on time. Be the first one in the room. You want people to be disciplined. Let them see your routine, your work ethic. You want people to care. Show them what caring looks like. It doesn't have to be loud. In fact, the most powerful examples are usually quiet. Subtle, honest. It's not about being perfect. It's about being true. True to your word. True to your values. True to the mission, even when no one is clapping for you. And here's the thing: people remember what you model. Long after your words are forgotten, your example will stick. The way you carried yourself, the way you handled failure, the way you lifted others up without needing credit. That's the kind of leadership that leaves a legacy. Not because you force people to follow, but because they wanted to. Leading by example means you are the standard, not the exception. It means you don't cut corners and then expect others to give their best. You don't break the rules and then preach about accountability. You don't lead with double standards, because once people see inconsistency, they stop believing. They may obey, but they won't follow with heart. And without heart, there is no movement. It's easy to tell others what to do. It's much harder to become what you want them to do. But that's what sets real leaders apart. They go first. They carry the weight. They walk the talk, not to impress, but to inspire, to show others what's possible when you lead with integrity. There will be moments when your example is the only thing keeping the team together. When people are tired, when morale is low, when doubt starts creeping in. It's your presence, your consistency, your walk that keeps them steady. They look at you and think, if they are still going, so can I. That's what example does. It transfers courage. It ignites belief, but understand this: leading by example isn't about being flawless. It's about being real. It's about owning your mistakes, learning out loud, growing in front of others. Because when people see you take responsibility, when they see you evolve, they don't lose respect. They gain it. Vulnerability paired with strength is magnetic. It shows people they can be human and still lead. They can struggle and still rise. So if you want to lead effectively, make your life your message. Let your actions be louder than your advice. Let your dedication speak louder than your direction. Set the tone. Be the model of discipline, of humility, of courage, of excellence. Not because you have to, but because it's who you are. That's when leadership becomes real. That's when it becomes transformational. Because at the end of the day, leadership is not about being impressive. It's about being impactful. And the most impactful thing you can do is to become the example. Every day, in every decision, in every challenge. When you become the standard, you won't need to demand respect. It will come naturally. Not because of your title, but because of your truth. Leadership without humility is a dangerous thing. The moment you think you know it all, the moment you stop learning, you stop growing. And if you stop growing, you stop leading, because leadership is not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to find them. It's about staying open, staying curious, and understanding that no matter how far you've come, there's still more to learn. Humility is not weakness, it's strength under control. It's power that doesn't need to shout. It's wisdom that listens more than it speaks. The best leaders in the world, the ones who truly make an impact, never graduate from being students. They read, they ask questions, they surround themselves with people who challenge them, not flatter them. They don't just talk about growth, they live it, because they know leadership isn't a destination, it's a journey. And on that journey, learning is your fuel. Without it, you stall. Without it, you slowly fall behind while pretending to be ahead. Ego is the enemy of that growth. Ego whispers, you've made it, you've arrived, you don't need help. But that voice is a liar. It doesn't build it blinds, it blinds you to your blind spots. It blinds you to feedback. It convinces you that asking questions makes you look weak, when in reality, it's what makes you wise. A teachable spirit is one of the most powerful traits a leader can have, because it shows that you're more committed to truth than to pride. It shows that you care more about the mission than your image. Humility is not about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking beyond yourself. It's about recognizing that every person around you has something to teach you, that the intern might see what the CEO misses, that your team's perspective is just as valuable as your own. A humble leader makes space for others to contribute, to speak up, to shine. And when people feel heard, when they feel valued, they give more. They bring their full selves to the table. That's how you build culture. That's how you build trust. Leadership is not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about creating a room where everyone feels smart enough to contribute. It's not about hoarding the spotlight. It's about using your light to illuminate others. And that takes humility. That takes a secure leader, one who doesn't need to be the center of attention because their focus is on elevating everyone else. When you lead with humility, your team will follow you with loyalty, not because they fear you, but because they trust you. They'll know you're willing to admit mistakes. They'll know you don't pretend to be perfect, and that honesty, that realness, builds connection. People don't want perfect leaders. They want authentic ones. Leaders who are human, leaders who are growing, leaders who are not too proud to learn from failure. Every experience, every failure, every conversation holds a lesson, if you're willing to see it, if you're humble enough to listen. If you're wise enough to reflect, the greatest breakthroughs don't always come from strategy. They come from awareness, from the quiet courage to say, I was wrong, I can do better, teach me. That posture, that mindset, will carry you further than talent ever could. Because talent can open doors, but humility keeps them open. Pride will shut people out, but humility draws them in. It says, let's grow together. It says, we don't have to get it right every time. We just have to keep getting better. And that's the essence of leadership. Not perfection, but progress. Not dominance, but development. You lead not by having all the answers, but by having the heart to keep asking better questions. You lead by being brave enough to grow in front of others, to model what a learning life really looks like. So stay a student, stay curious, stay humble enough to admit when you've got more to learn, because you always will, and that's a beautiful thing, because the day you stop learning is the day you stop leading. Keep growing, keep stretching, keep learning from everyone every day, because leadership doesn't end when you get to the top. It only begins when you stay teachable enough to keep climbing. A true leader doesn't just react to what is, they respond to what could be. They don't get stuck in the present, they have the courage to dream beyond it. That's where vision lives. Vision is not about seeing with your eyes, it's about seeing with your spirit. It's about having a deep, unwavering belief in a future that hasn't shown up yet. And even when the path ahead is clouded by doubt, obstacles, or noise, a leader holds onto that inner picture. They don't need permission to believe. They choose to believe. Vision isn't fantasy. It's faith in motion. It's the ability to stand in the middle of struggle and still declare what's possible. It's what gives people hope when everything looks like it's falling apart. Vision gives direction when the road disappears. It gives meaning when the work gets hard. Without vision, leadership is just management. But with vision, leadership becomes a movement. But vision alone is not enough. You've got to have faith. Because vision without faith is like seeing the mountain but never believing you can climb it. Faith is that fire in your bones that won't let you quit. It's not based on what you see. It's based on what you know. Deep down in your gut, deep down in your soul. You may not know how it's going to happen, but you know it will. That's faith. There will be days when the vision seems impossible, when nothing around you looks like what you imagined, when the people you counted on lose their belief, when the numbers don't add up, when the pressure rises, when the world starts saying, maybe it's time to give up. But faith says, not yet. I still see it. I still believe. I'm still moving. That's what separates great leaders. They don't stop just because the way gets hard. They press on because their vision is bigger than the pain. Faith is not blind, it's bold. It takes faith to make decisions when there are no guarantees. It takes faith to speak life into something that hasn't grown yet. It takes faith to invest your energy, your time, your whole heart into something nobody else can see. But when you lead with that kind of faith, people feel it. And even if they don't understand your vision yet, they'll trust your conviction. They'll walk with you because they can see you're walking with purpose. Vision gives the team a target, but faith gives them the fuel. It reminds them why they started. It helps them endure the setbacks, the delays, the disappointments. Because here's the truth. Every vision worth chasing comes with resistance. Every dream that matters will be tested, but that's where leaders show up. That's when they remind people what they're building, why it matters, and what's waiting on the other side. You want to lead people through uncertainty. Then your belief has to be louder than the fear around you. You want to carry people through doubt. Then your vision has to be so clear, so compelling, that others borrow your belief until they find their own. That's leadership. That's what makes a leader a builder of belief, a person who creates space for others to dream again. But don't forget, faith and vision are not just for speeches, they're for the everyday. They show up in your discipline, in your patience, in the way you stay consistent, even when no one's watching. Vision isn't just what you talk about at the beginning. It's what you hold on to at the end, when everyone else is tired, when the journey feels long, when the fire starts to fade. You keep the fire burning. Every great leader you admire had a vision before it was real. They saw something invisible and built it with everything they had. That's not luck. That's not magic. That's leadership fueled by faith. And you have that same potential, that same fire, but it's up to you to protect it, nurture it, and lead with it, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. So, stay anchored in your vision, keep walking in faith, and don't let temporary circumstances shake your permanent calling, because the future you see, the one you believe in, is not a fantasy, it's a calling. And if you keep walking with faith, one day that vision won't just live in your mind, it'll live in the world. Because you had the courage to see it, the faith to believe it, and the heart to lead others into it. Leadership is not about how many people cheer your name. It's about how many lives are changed because you showed up. The applause is temporary, the spotlight fades, but legacy lives on. It's not built in the noise of the crowd. It's built in the quiet decisions you make every day. It's built in the way you lead when no one's clapping. The world will tempt you to chase popularity, to do what's trending, to say what sounds good in the moment, but a real leader resists that temptation. A real leader understands that impact is more powerful than approval. Chasing popularity is easy. It feeds the ego. It makes you feel important. But leadership isn't about feeling important. It's about being impactful. And that impact often happens behind the scenes, in the background, in the hard conversations and the hard choices. Sometimes you'll lead and no one will thank you, no one will notice. Sometimes they won't even agree with you in the moment. But if your heart is in the right place and your decisions are guided by purpose and integrity, the fruit will show up later. That's the nature of legacy. Legacy is not an event, it's a process. It's the accumulation of values lived out over time. It's what people remember about your presence long after your absence. It's the trust you built, the standards you upheld, the courage you modeled, the lives you elevated. That doesn't come from popularity. It comes from consistency, from staying the course when it would have been easier to take shortcuts for applause. Think about the people who impacted you the most in life. It probably wasn't the loudest voices, it wasn't the most famous names, it was the mentors, the elders, the leaders who gave you wisdom, who challenged you, who believed in you. The ones who didn't just say what you wanted to hear, but said what you needed to hear. That's real leadership, that's legacy. In a world obsessed with being seen, a true leader is more concerned with what they leave behind than how many likes they get today. Popularity is about now. Legacy is about tomorrow. It's about laying a foundation others can build on, and sometimes that means sacrificing comfort. Sometimes it means being misunderstood, because when you choose to lead with conviction instead of convenience, not everyone will clap. But the ones who matter, the ones who carry your message forward, they'll remember. Legacy is also about who you raise up. It's not about how high you go, it's about how many people you bring with you. A leader focused on legacy invests in people. They multiply leadership, they create space for others to rise, because they know it's not about being the star of the show, it's about being the one who built the stage. There's nothing wrong with being recognized. There's nothing wrong with accolades, but when your leadership depends on that, You become a slave to the crowd. You make decisions based on applause, not on purpose. And the moment the applause stops, so does your direction. But when you lead with legacy in mind, you can lead through criticism. You can lead through the silence. You can lead even when the room is empty, because you know what you're building is bigger than your feelings. The world needs leaders who are not just here for the moment, but who are building for the future. Leaders who aren't addicted to attention, but are committed to transformation. Leaders who don't just make headlines, they make history. That kind of leadership is rare. That kind of leadership is lasting. So ask yourself, not how can I be liked, but what will I leave behind? Ask yourself, what values am I modeling? What culture am I creating? What kind of leader will they say I was when I'm no longer in the room? Because that's the real scorecard. That's the real success. It's not in the metrics. It's in the memories, not in the fame, but in the footprint. Don't chase applause. Chase impact. Don't just aim to be visible, aim to be valuable. Because at the end of the day, popularity fades, but purpose leaves a mark that time can't erase. That's leadership worth living for, that's legacy, and it's waiting for you to choose it moment by moment, choice by choice, day by day.